Kia ora and welcome to CIO Leadership Live. I'm Kathy O'Sullivan, editor for CIO New Zealand. My guest today is Nisha Clark, CIO at Obana Healthcare. Hello, Nisha.
Kia ora, everyone. I'm really excited to be here. And hey, Kathy.
Hey, great to have you here. So just to kick things off, can you tell us a little bit more about your role and what your team at Obana Healthcare does?
So the CIO at Obana Healthcare is looking at bringing together we've got two businesses, one in Australia, one in New Zealand, and we're just trying to bring everything together to get that consistency. So looking at the operations, the infrastructure, the security footprint, looking at what the future holds for us, trying to remove some of the complications that we have. There's a lot of manual processes and bespoke practices out there, and just really improving that security footprint and the technology footprint across both countries.
So a lot of transformation going on there and a lot of change. And obviously transformation is talked about as if it's a given in organizations, but in reality, it actually is not easy. So how has that approach taken shape in your career?
It's a really good point. I think transformation is most definitely not a given. If you think about, I've been in a number of different industries now, and where we try to transform, it's normally because we want to put in a new system, whereas the company itself is so far behind. They're happy to be on SQL databases with a few wonderful corporate tools like Excel. And for them, they don't need to transform. And I think transformation is the word that gets everybody every time. So it's understanding what the organizational goals are, where they want to be, and then how do we align those goals to what are the key transformational activities there are, and then taking that approach. But yes, definitely not easy, and especially when an organization is really set in their ways, it's really hard to find that why. Why are we doing a transformation? So I think for the organization that I've got now, it really is about moving ourselves forward. I always like to think about Air New Zealand, how wonderful Air New Zealand is, but I still took a photo at the airport the other day of the lady taking the telex off the telex machine, and I still know there's a little heart in there that's really old. So they're still on that journey, but they look and feel really, really exciting from the outside. And that's similar to Obana. We want to provide the best possible environment so that our customers can feel comfortable and do the best possible job that they need to do for their patients. So, yeah.
Absolutely. So just walking back from that end product and having that amazing environment for consumers and the products that Obana has. When you think about the end product, what are the key steps CIOs can take along the way? Is there a starting point to kick off a transformation journey, do you think?
Personally, I think so. I think it is understanding what is the why. Why are we about to embark on the journey? And then that helps form the plan. So what is it for the customer, the people within the organization? Can we tie these things together? And I think personally, the key thing is in plain English. Once you can define the why and translate it not into tech speak, but into plain English, then you jump on the road and you get going. It's really interesting where I can use a spreadsheet and a Power BI, and I can do all the things I need to do. But what is the why I would go to a new finance system? Or why do I want to go to a new patient management system when I have all the information there? For me, the why is we want it to be a single source of truth. And we don't want to have anyone manipulating the data, and we don't want to have any debt within our environment, and we want to be able to understand what our patients are doing at any given time. So I think it's understanding the why first and foremost, and then that takes you on your journey.
And you mentioned there around using simple language. Are there any other things that you think are kind of common roadblocks to avoid along the way?
Common roadblocks, absolutely. So it's there's things like trying to overcomplicate a solution. I always try to think we're here to take the complexity out. Legacy is there. How do you put wrappers around the legacy and don't make it the reason why the project starts extending? So complexity, creating a simple environment is really, really important. There's the buy versus build. When you're on this journey and you come to a point where you've got to buy something off the shelf or build it yourself, from my experience in all the different industries I've been in, it's 50-50. People go, look, I'll just build it myself. It's going to be cheaper and easier. I know the environment. Whereas if you take it off the shelf, somebody's already learned a few lessons, and there's always pros and cons. But that's a pretty good example that can become a roadblock quite quickly when you're trying to understand how you integrate products together. So for me, it's get things off the shelf as much as you can. Our current environment, it's really funny. We have a need to build an integration platform. We went to the market and looked for the platform. One of the teams said, yes, but Nisha, it's probably just easier if we do it ourselves. That would probably have taken us a little bit longer, and also partnering with somebody, they normally come to the table with a few extras. So the roadblocks are taking out the complexity, because as soon as you introduce more complexity into your environment, that's when you come up against brick walls.
Yeah, definitely a big roadblock there. So do you think, is there an end date to transformation? Do you think it should be viewed as a project, or a project with a deadline, or is it just an ongoing development within a business?
Transformation, I just alluded to it in the beginning, is probably a word that scares people, and it is overused. And if you think about transformation, it's really not we're transforming anymore, because I don't believe there is an end date, to answer your question, Kathy. I think we're always evolving. It's just like everything, we start off at manual paper, and then we evolve to a computer system. We started off with the dial telephone, and we moved to a mobile telephone, and now we have a computer at our ear. And I think we continue to evolve, and that's what tech does. For me, when I hear the word transform, it feels like there should be an end date. I should go, yep, look at us. We've done that. We're pretty good. Give ourselves a few pats on the back, and holy heck, next minute, there's something that's come along and completely disrupted our either industry or the tech world. So I think for me, it is around evolving, and it is around maturing. So there is no end date. More than anything, COVID has taught us that. If you think about our COVID journey 2 years ago, especially here in Aotearoa, we were in that instance of, yep, there has to be an end date. We're going to get to the end date. And what happened was our lovely little virus kept evolving itself. But what was equally true was we evolved as a community and organisation. So transformation for me is definitely doesn't have an end date. It is that we need to evolve with our customers, with the technology. And when I was at Vodafone, I was alluding to it. I started in telecom with paper, and I tell people at the universities how I was probably one of the first people that moved from paper to computers in the telecom industry. And now look at us, we're still evolving. So yes, there is no end date.
Okay. So then just changing gears a little bit, can you tell us, as a CIO, how are you collaborating and influencing your organization and its leadership team?
I think personally, the first thing you need to do is understand the business. Techie people come in there and not shining white horses carrying on. No, just joking. But I think it is truly understanding the business, and that's where you become as one. When you talk the same language as your colleagues, my peers, I've had to learn about amalgam. I've had to learn about white space. Won't tell you about that, but these are very important terms. And when I talk to my leadership team in those terms, they then start to build trust that I understand our business. I'm not trying to convert them from a dodgy server to a brand new fancy server just because I want to help them spend some money. I can actually articulate those reasons in business speak, which has been the theme of what I've been saying, but then also really providing a listening landscape. So sitting there listening, not trying to provide solutions in the very beginning, and also as you can imagine, in the tech space, there's a lot of people coming at my leadership team at Abano, selling them the latest new AI product, and there's this new fancy scanner. And if they came to me and I continually said no, because we wouldn't have a very good relationship. So we try to understand why and what the products are. We give them some frameworks to help them understand what's important from a tech landscape perspective, but also what that means to the business if we don't get some of those things right. So it really is chucking everything away, just being part of the business. I'm one of the people at the leadership table that is trying to help grow experience and revenue for the company. And I just have a different kit bag to be able to bring to the table to help drive that.
Absolutely. And just expanding on that a little bit more, the role of CIO has evolved over the years. So what do you think are the key attributes of a successful modern day CIO?
Communication, being there, being visible, so being present, which is really, really important. I think in the old days, the technology team were on a different level to everybody else. And I mean physical, like level 1, and everyone else was on level 11 because that's where technology belongs. Joking again. But the communication is really key, listening, and it's both ways. I think also being humble. I do still see a lot of people and my colleagues and peers as CIOs who have to have a presence and they know everything. Mm-hmm. It is actually okay from a modern day CIO perspective to go, hey, I actually don't know. Let me go and find out the answer for you, but I actually don't know. And I think those are the little golden nuggets that help you build relationships with stakeholders, and actually also having a lot of integrity. So for me, integrity is not just within the company, but outside of the company, building relationships with people that you partner with. I've seen some very strained relationships with, as an example, with Microsoft. We promised and we committed to signing a deal. We were never going to sign the deal. And at the time, people in charge thought that was okay to keep them along the journey. But I think if you're honest and open up front with your partners, you always find a way to get around different things, or just saying, look, we're not ready. Please come back in a couple of months. So integrity from both sides of the organisation. Communication goes with listening, just listening, understanding what the problems are that you're there to solve, not trying to want to build something from NASA. Because they actually don't need it right now. They just need a simple blue pen. So listening is really, really important. And be the business. Don't be technology. Be the business. I'm Abano. I'm trying to learn to speak the language. It's crazy language, by the way. And that's dentistry. Not putting dentistry out there, but you just have to throw all your old things out and bring a whole new vocabulary to the table. So that's my thoughts.
And then when it comes to people leadership, how are you creating an internal culture that really drives your team and allows them to achieve their personal and professional goals?
Bringing the team along for the ride is my first thing that I like to do, giving them insights into what the company is about, but what are some of our challenges just collectively, so they don't feel as they're the team just in the background turning the wheels, getting stuff out the door. When there are challenges, letting the team understand what they are, but also helping them see the successes. So that's kind of very important, is the why that we're doing the jobs that we're doing. Looking at their careers, and also I think the key aspect is mentoring. You can do mentoring in a lot of different ways. Just asking questions. Why are you doing the job that you're doing? Is there something else you would like to be doing? A lot of the times we push people into roles and sometimes they just don't want to go. So I've learned that from a few years of managing a lot of people. Shining the light on their successes is really important. They don't necessarily want to be, Kathy did this most amazing thing, we all need to give her a round of applause. It can be the infrastructure team achieved this great success, and then they all feel part of the excitement. Also, I do believe making sure there are good, sound policies around how we bring on people, gender diversity. Culture for me is about little things. When I was at Fleet Corps, I was super impressed that it was a very small company, but they had a prayer room that was booked out for the prayers of every day. For you couldn't book that room, and it was quite an important part of that culture. Women's mentoring program. I've been in organisations where no diversity. You apply for a job, whoever's the best person in the job. But I know sometimes people just don't feel confident in applying for the job because their expectation is they have to be there for 5 days a week. They have to put in 100%, 120% effort. They've got kids, they can't do that. Providing a framework around mentoring to help people understand, like we can do flexible working, 4-day weeks, remote working. So helping with policies that enable people to want to be part of those, part of the culture, part of the company, and also to enable them to feel comfortable and relaxed, I think will help us shape getting that diverse background and culture and bring the teams along for the ride.
And I'm really glad that you've touched on diversity, because the IT industry is renowned for not really reflecting the Aotearoa that we live in. So what other practical things do you think can be done to get more women, get more Māori and Pacifica, get more diverse thinkers into IT roles?
This is one of my little passions and bugbears at the same time. Technology has a stigma and it frustrates me quite significantly because I only had it happen to me yesterday. I was chatting to somebody, it was my therapist for my hand, and I told her I was in technology. So she said, the second thing out of her mouth was, so do you do computer programming? And I went, no, actually, I don't know how to program a computer. I did it at school. I made a little man move across the screen. Didn't really excite me much. But technology is so much bigger than computer programming. It's so much bigger than networking. A PC was the other thing. I was at Manukau Technical Institute doing some talks to year 13, and outside there was a stand for technology, and it was come and learn how to network computers. And I was like, really? Okay. And secondly, there is a stigma that technology sits down here. So in our culture, my children are Samoan. A lot of my friends are Māori. In the community, technology doesn't hold a stigma as a doctor or a lawyer or a dentist. So how do we bring technology into something that is actually a really, really equal par career? That's a really, really big problem, I feel. So trying to break down those barriers is really important. And I think then we'll be able to start to generate a level playing field. And yeah, that's how I think.
Do you think more CIOs need to become more active and think more practically about getting more diversity into their workforce?
Absolutely. And the other part of that is qualifications. On the job learning at Vodafone, the coolest thing I experienced was hard work. We brought in apprentices, and we had 6 apprentices. These were just school leavers. It's quite a significant thing for somebody to do, but they were children, and we had all walks of life. We had Māori, Fijian, Samoan, European, Indian lady, and bringing them along to see what was happening and actually getting us out there, going into a school, going to the institutes to help them out, to help change the language and the dialogue is really, really important. So I think for me, and it's also, I would excite people to say, hey, here's my criteria. Are you really excited about problem solving? Or do you really like writing stories? 2 things. 1, problem solving. You could probably do testing. Writing stories, you could be a business analyst because you're able to translate between, geeky IT speak and what the business want, and writing stories is a powerful thing. And then when you think about our new worlds of agile, having somebody who's there that can lead a team of people to facilitate learning is another skill, and it's a tech skill. So yes, we need to be out there in the community, not just talking about getting the next computer science degree, because that's going to make you an IT person.
And do you think then, obviously COVID's changed how we work over the last few years. So do you think hybrid work plays a part in getting more diversity into our workforces? And do you think hybrid work is the norm? Is it the norm going forward?
It's a question I actually don't know the answer to. I think we will end up in a hybrid working environment, but there's still a lot of company cultures and industries where they still want the employees in the office, which in our environment, what I've seen is a lot of people just don't want to do that anymore. So you're now thinning out the people that you could get on board. It also, for me personally, I've seen it's a leadership thing. So there are still a lot of CIOs, CEOs, COOs, all the Cs that have, I call it an old school mindset. I have to have the troops around me. That's how I get better productivity. So there's a trust factor. But I also have this quandary in my own personal, whereas I think there is an opportunity that the hybrid works for me, but you still need to try and bring people together at some point to build the relationship. When we went into the office after COVID about 5 weeks ago, people hadn't even seen each other since they got hired, and the look on their face was amazement and delight. And I can't actually describe the words how some people were feeling to be able to see people. So there is that balance that we had to get to. When I was at Mercury, we had a remote team in India working with the New Zealand team, and we had this terrible conflict. And I had to do a team building like you would normally do in a meeting room online, which worked fine. But you could feel the strain, but we got through it, and we tried to be a bit jovial and calm the what's it called there, the etiquette down, so that you could be casual where you are in a room. So I think hybrid will become the norm, but how do we build that into our DNA moving forward to allow people to come to all walks of life to be able to come and join the teams?
Yeah, certainly something we're all trying to navigate at the moment in this new world. And so then just looking back on your own career, what do you think are maybe is a mistake that you've made in your career that's kind of shaped you as a leader? Is there anything that stands out?
Trying to be like them is how I put it, and I think about it quite a lot. So them, I mean the leaders of my past. So I grew up in an environment where it was very hierarchical. You actually shouldn't talk back to your leader, and it was a very bullish environment. So as I started emerging into leadership roles, I would become like that person. So, Kathy, why aren't you at work? Can you help me understand why you're not there? Can you show me what you've delivered today? The trust factor was really low, and I remember quite quickly when remote working became a thing, and it was like a day a week, and I was that person, unfortunately, pretty embarrassed about myself, but I was that person that was like, really can't trust that Kathy will be at her desk for 8 hours. Her productivity is probably only going to be about 3 because she's going to wander off, go have a cup of tea, can't physically see her. And I had to go on that journey myself to do a bit more self-awareness and to actually realize that it's a trust thing. And when you build that trusting platform, remote working or somebody just giving them the task and letting them go off, there's different ways of managing people. So for me, it was taking away the way I had been managed and bringing a different new look to that. So that was my biggest learning.
Yeah, and sometimes we have to make those mistakes, right, to learn and grow from it. So what's the best career advice you've ever received?
Back yourself. So when I was at Telecom, I had a leader. We went to Wellington to do the first computer system, as I said. Mike Andrew was a leader within the environment, and we came back to Auckland, and he said, we need somebody to lead the team between IBM developers and the Telecom BAs and put out the different versions of the releases. Can you do that? And I was like, no, don't be stupid. I don't even know what the hell those developers are doing. I've spent 2 years in Wellington not understanding a single word that they said. You want me to look after them? And he said, yeah, you need to back yourself. I bet you know more than what you think you know, and just fake it. And I was like, okay. And he said, and by the way, you're going to do it. He was a lovely man, really lovely man. But his advice was just back yourself. And I think that for me now, I go to do things and I'm like, no, I can do this. So, and it's pretty important, I think.
And then for anyone who's, aspiring to be a CIO or a leader in IT, what advice would you give them?
On the same thing, be you. It's you. I think it's you, the person, that makes the difference. The reason why somebody picks you is because either of your skills, your personality. Don't be scared to fail. I remember the days where, I've even had it myself. I've been fretting about budgets and things, but actually it's okay to fail. And then don't be scared to succeed. Unfortunately, Aotearoa is full of the tall poppy syndrome, which is very evident. And a lot of the times, I've seen people go, oh, no, I'm just not going to do that, or I'm not going to say that because I don't want to be that person that looks like, who cares? Just be the best person you can. So, don't be afraid to succeed, and don't be afraid to fail. It's you that makes the difference, I think.
Brilliant advice. Brilliant advice. So then finally, Nisha, can I ask you what's important to you in the months ahead at Abano?
Delivering on the promises I've made. I've made some big promises, and the biggest promise I made was you will not hear that IT caused the problem. There's a big story to that, but just for me, it's an integrity and a personal thing. I've committed to trying to fix up a whole lot of stuff to get projects delivered. So delivering on my promises is really, really important, and being there, part of the team to help the business grow. That will be the greatest accolade I think I could really have.
Fantastic. Great to hear. Nisha Clark, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, Kathy. This was very enjoyable, and I hope somebody gets something out of it.
Great stuff.